This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. It's Thursday, December 11th. We're getting closer to the holiday season. Great to see everyone. Always thankful for our panel members and those in attendance who have joined today. This is our quarterly meeting, our final meeting of 2025, uniting our bicycle retailer, growing ridership, and retailer foot traffic panel. It's such an important conversation. This panel was established in 2025, just this year. And it's an advocacy initiative by the NBDA really aimed at uniting the industry to take immediate action to develop strategies that increase bicycle riding participation in the US. This is critical, it's timely, and it impacts the future of the American bicycle industry. It's very dear to my heart, and I'm thankful for those who showed up, and I'm thankful for the conversations that we've been having in these panel discussions. The purpose of this platform is that we hope to provide an opportunity for us to come together and exchange ideas, ask questions, and develop solutions that not only bring new riders into our sport, that keeps our current riders choosing the bicycles and keeps those riders engaging with our local retailers and with our industry brand suppliers. As I said earlier, it's integral for the future of the American bicycle industry, of the global bicycle industry. Such an important conversation we'll have today. Our topics vary every single time we come together. Our topics are suggested to us by the NBDA community. Megan Schmidt, who's our programs developer, who does an amazing job for the NBDA, reaches out to our community about a month prior and says, we're having this panel discussion. Do you have topics that you'd like us to discuss that impact growing ridership? With those suggestions, we take all those topics and we narrow the selection down to 1, 2, or 3 possibly, depending on what topic and how much length of time we should give to it. In today's agenda, we'll have one topic. The topic is really important in our P2 groups, in my meetings with retailers. Rentals and rental fleets have been an integral part of their business for the second half of 2025. They really are changing the way that business is being done and really impacting the future. Some of our newer generations of riders coming into the sport think about renting a bike before they think about buying one. My daughter is 17 years old, and if she wants to get together with friends on the weekend, they'll look at a rental because it's easy to do. And the retailers who are making sure that their shop is accommodating to those retailers are seeing incredible growth. So we've got one topic today. I'm really excited to get into this. To our attendees, if you're joining us as a viewing attendee, this conversation is for you. Thanks for being here. Let's get involved. As we move forward today, we will have opportunity for your contribution. You can do so with just putting a question into the chat function, or you can actually raise your hand and join in and speak. So we'll watch for your cues, and if you'd like to participate, we welcome your participation. Our panel members have volunteered their time to this discussion, and we're so thankful that they're here. So we have a couple panel members who wish to speak on this topic, and we'll call on them soon. And during their 5 minutes of their presentation, they're sharing their opinion. They're sharing their expert knowledge. We're not going to interrupt. We're going to listen with open ears and an open heart, because they might not be sharing things that we agree with fully, but having an opportunity to hear their thoughts might impact the way we think about and change the way we do things in the future. And that's what this is all about. So for our panel members, thank you for volunteering your time. All right, so our topic for today is expanding cycling access with rentals and fleets. And the question that we'll dive into here is, how can bicycle retailers expand access to cycling and grow diverse ridership through solutions like rental program and managed fleets? I'm thrilled to have our first speaker, Peter Woolery from Bicycle Market Research. He's a champion of the NBDA, a champion for retailers, and brings so much data and insight to everything he shares with us. Peter, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate you all having this on and having me. As typical, I'll certainly provide some data to help support some of these ideas as well. But I wanted to give a little background where I worked in bicycle retail for many years with Summit Bicycles. And there we did the classic demo fleets, but we also did rentals from some of our locations where we would have more casual cyclists engaging with it. So we'd have those multiple different avenues of engaging cyclists on the casual side, if it's, say, a family member coming into town or someone who doesn't ride as much, and so they don't think to spend $1,000 on a bicycle, but they might spend $50 to go for a bike ride with the family. We also did the more performance cyclists with the demo bikes to have it so people coming into town didn't necessarily have to ship their bikes and deal with the potential risk from shipping carriers and how to manage that. They could easily pick up a high performance bicycle from us. And later on, we started doing corporate rentals where we would provide rentals either to interns at some of these large corporations near us, or we would do it directly to that corporation and they would divvy it out to their employees. So we're going to go over it a little bit of the different avenues of how rentals can support your retail businesses, and then round it out by touching again on how the rental mechanism can engage more riders and get more participation out there from Americans. So we'll take a little bit of what I find interesting, which is talking about taxes and the legal side of things, but we'll do it very briefly. Keep in mind that when you rent a bike as a retailer, you are doing a partial sale of that bicycle. It's true of renting anything. And there's some important aspects to that. One is you do need to collect sales tax and make sure that you remit that. But two, when you think about the overall value of your rental bike, these rental fees that you collect are effectively stacking on top because you've partial sold it over time, and then eventually you sell the whole bike. In my conversations with rental-focused retailers around the country, they tend to view about a 2-year lifespan for your average bike, with some bicycles like mountain bikes getting a little more fatigued more quickly, and others like road bikes, so long as there's no major technological shift like disc brakes or electronic shifting, lasting a bit longer. In that rental transaction as well, the retailer is responsible for the bike and the condition of it. Certainly there's some responsibility from the brand, but because you are responsible to maintain it and send it out, you're kind of that front organization. So make sure you're doing the maintenance, do the check-in, do the checkout, and have documented procedures so that if anything ever comes, you can point to it and say, this is the good state that it was in, and your brands will thank you and be much more cooperative with that. And then finally, the rider is liable for how they're using the bike. If they're riding irresponsibly, there's nothing that you as a retailer can do. That's on them. And that's where having the rental agreements, even if it's a free rental, is super important. So that way you're not just protecting your bicycle or the rental fee, but you're making sure that it's a clear relationship with that rider in the end. So I touched on this a little bit at the beginning of who rides bicycles. And you can see in this diagram here, we have casual use, high performance use, and then corporate. And the reason corporate is set aside as a separate one is it's usually an improvement point. Either the corporation is trying to reduce traffic going to their specific campus or reduce parking issues. I remember with Google, this was a big one because they had so many employees right in Mountain View that they were literally causing major backups on the freeways around there. And so they were trying to work with the California Highway Patrol and the local municipalities to figure out small steps they could do to reduce that. And bicycles were a great avenue where there was a bike path leading straight there. And so they really wanted to advocate on the inside there. High performance and casual use, we certainly talked about a bit more. Now you'll notice these numbers underneath dedicated rental shops and bike shops. And through my work with People for Bikes on the Bicycle Industry Data Exchange, I've been enumerating all of the different retailers across the country. And there's a good handful of dedicated rental locations. Right now we're approaching that 300 range, but as I'm having these conversations with them, I'm finding that there's an extended number of franchise locations out there, particularly in tourist areas that don't necessarily have dedicated online storefronts. There might be one, and then you choose your pickup location from there. So there's a pretty wide range of the number of dedicated rental shops. These ones tend to focus on one of the categories, either focusing purely on, say, tourist casual use or high performance, or on the corporate side. So you have some brands like Ride Panda that is really focused on corporate over the years and has been successful there, but that you wouldn't necessarily see competing directly with Blazing Saddles in San Francisco, who really focuses on that tourist customer. Underneath bike shops, you'll see the 1,300 to 1,800 number, which seems strange. There are more bike shops than that. Well, thus far, my research has shown that around 25% of bike shops are collecting revenue from their rental operations. And there's a little nuance there in that some will have demo bikes that they'll send out in order to get the customers interested in the new products. And so that's why we have that smaller number. Even still, it's a pretty sizable number of rental locations out there. It also shows us that there's opportunity for growth for retailers to start dipping their toes into this in small ways. Now, what you probably have already thought of is that it's super location dependent. If you're in a very touristy area, focus on those tourists. But if you're not going to get as much of the casual use, and you really need to focus on your niche. And that's where the local knowledge that you as end retailers really shines the most. Your brands aren't going to be able to tell you what you should stock, nor can I really. It's on the ground. Who are the people coming into your store, walking past your storefront, and what might they enjoy? So going back to the data side of things, this is a somewhat dramatic chart. So from the data from the Bicycle Industry Data Exchange, we saw an increasing amount of rental transaction volume happening pre-COVID. And then, of course, it collapsed. When people couldn't travel for business and everything went virtual, just like this webinar is, there was a lot less of that tourist or high performance rentals. Couple that with the shortage of inventory available, and a lot of retailers, Summit Bicycles included, just simply sold off their rental fleets, perfectly reasonable, but then you have the shortage of inventory. Are you going to allocate that to a rental or to the person who's waiting next in line to pay you full pop for it? And that's where we saw the slow development or slow rebound of rentals, where they've taken somewhat of a backseat to primary bicycle sales. As the overall inventory has recovered, you can see for the past 4 years, it's been a steady march of growth. Heather mentioned that in the P2 groups, they've seen strong growth in particularly the second half of 2025 as retailers are thinking, how can I optimize my floor space and my cash allocation so I get the most people experiencing the bikes and close sales? Demo bikes and rentals can certainly do that, as well as it helps us to reach consumers who maybe aren't ready to spend all of that money. Which brings us to the final slide here. How can this really help us to grow ridership? Well, the reality is that bicycles have been increasing in prices and average selling prices for the past decade. And this can be a problem, but honestly, brands are making fantastic quality bikes that last a long time. So over the lifespan of the bikes, it really makes sense. Now, you as retailers can offer demo bikes and rentals to allow people to dip their toes in at lower price points or in partnership with corporations, local municipalities, in order to promote some of their target objectives. So that way we increase just this ridership number. One of the things that's been thrown around, People for Bikes has done some research on overall ridership, and they mention the total number of American riders as having ridden once in the past year. Well, would we consider them a bike shop customer or a cyclist? Probably not, but it does give us something of an anchor for those riders. And those people who ride, say, just once are probably those who are, say, Heather's daughter, who's just thinking, hey, I'm just going to go rent a bike, go with my friends, we're going to have a good day of it. But that starts to build in their mind. And if they start to do it more, say they rent 2, 3, 4 times from you in a year, all of a sudden the connection's made of, hey, I should just buy a bike and just get my own. And so we invest in that future while we're still doing those partial sales up front. So I wanted to give that broad overview. I think the next speaker is going to give a lot more targeted and detail of how we can find and access riders that maybe have been overlooked in other scenarios. And so I think we can learn a lot more from this broad view to that narrow and start thinking about a targeted strategy for each of your retailers moving forward.
Excellent. Peter, thank you so much. I always love when I see that you're signed up as a speaker because you always bring such data and thoughtful presentations for it. So really appreciate that. So important to just think about the legality behind bike rentals. And I do have a waiver that Spin Zone sent over. I will drop it into chat. I do want to tell you though, it probably does vary by state, and I would suggest you reach out to your own insurance company to think about what waiver you might need. But I will share the one from Spin Zone in a moment here. Great looking at who rents bikes, that rental transaction volume trend that you showed. Thankful that you have that data and insight to share with us. And then, yeah, rentals do grow ridership. Even myself, I used to travel with my bike, and now I find myself renting more when I'm going to destinations. It's just easier, more convenient, and I get to try the new technology, which I love. So yes, let's throw this over to our next speaker, and then I really do want to see all of our attendees get engaged and have a great discussion here about rentals because there's so much opportunity. So our next speaker is Marshall Randall, Business Development at Whiz Wheels. Marshall, thanks for being here. Oh, Marshall, yeah, just unmute for us. Thank you. It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if we weren't just like, please unmute. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Thanks for inviting me. Too many screens here. It's like, okay, so which one can I enlarge this so I can get to that little button and do that? And it's going to take me just a moment here. I'd like to share this screen. And I think you should be able to see that in just a moment.
Yep, looks good. Thank you, Marshall.
Awesome. Peter, I want to thank you for that data. That was awesome. And it so jogged loose for me the memories of when my wife and I owned two bike shops in Charleston, South Carolina, and we had a rental fleet down there, and we would connect with the local realtor. I feel like calling him out because it was such a great relationship, but I won't, on Folly Beach. And we would deliver, man, anywhere from 30 to 40 bikes a week for rental purpose. Just people would check that box and say, yep, we want a bike. And we would every week go pick up bikes and move them to a different location. And it was an awesome business model. So, but different than what I would like to talk about today. So thanks for allotting me 45 minutes for this discussion, Heather. I do appreciate that.
However long it takes, Marshall, you're in charge now. It's all you.
All right. It says incremental part two. Anybody that has had the misfortune of hearing me talk about recumbent sales often would hear me throw around the word incremental sales. So I would say first, just a little bit about me. Yeah, I'm at Whiz Wheels now. I like to call myself the wearer of many hats, from having been the general manager, director of sales and marketing, and so on, and now in kind of a part-time role in new business development. As I mentioned, I have owned bike shops in the Charleston area and worked as an advisor to a group that ended up bringing Kestrel bicycles back to the US in the 90s, and that was kind of fun. And I've worked in run specialty for a very large retailer, worked in the outdoor industry as a rep for Smartwool, Suunto, Salomon, and a list of other brands. And now my wife and I also own Recumbent CycleCon, which is the only recumbent expo in the United States. And a little self pat on the back. I also have the Guinness World Record and the WUCA World Record for the most miles ridden in 12 hours on a recumbent trike. So I like to use what I sell. So that's a quick rundown. The incremental part. Google has its definition of incremental sales, and I will wrap this into rentals. But for me, this whole incremental part is the piece of your business that you can gain as an IBD that doesn't take away from anything you currently have. It's just adding another revenue stream. And for me, the recumbent piece of this is that it gives you something that you're not gaining that revenue from now. And certainly the rental piece of it is just another subset of that. And when you get into the rental business, especially as it relates to the recumbent industry, you're picking up an entirely new customer, and a customer that is in typically a group that has dollars to spend and a group that spends an awful lot on add-on sales. And I think the last thing I would just throw into this incremental part is if you aren't renting, why not? It's incremental revenue and could quite possibly lead into additional sales. Quick little story, and I do realize I'm limited on time for what I have for slides here, but I'm going to jump into this too. While at Gazelle Sports, it was kind of interesting. It's a run specialty store, and I was brought on to grow the triathlon market. And part of my strategy there was to bring rentals to that. And we brought wetsuits in and it started renting wetsuits. What that did was not only generate the dollars from wetsuits, where we were renting upwards of 100 wetsuits from Zoot every single month, but the growth that we saw from that in that market segment, whether it be swim accessories, whether it be hydration, whether it be food, whether it be whatever, it grew that market segment, those incremental sales that we never would have seen had we not started that rental business with wetsuits. Key IBD rental categories. Peter hit on this. You've got that vacation tourist location, which we're not all that fortunate to be in. But I do see that as that piece of the business that can be more driven by comfort, ease of use. But then again, it can be specific to that area, because we have people that are renting, even recumbents, in a very mountainous area in Pennsylvania and or on the beach. The really key component to that, though, I would hit on is with the recumbent piece of it, it's a nobody's left behind. You're renting something to someone sometimes that might be intimidated to be out there on a bike, on a two-wheel traditional. So grandpa, grandma, whomever, you're not going to leave them behind if you have a rental, if you have a recumbent piece to your rental fleet. Rail to trail rentals. At this time, most of our rental partners are on the rail trails, and the Midwest just has a plethora of them. So we're pretty fortunate with that. And those customers tend to be customers that are closer to the IBD and quite often can lead into a loyal customer and someone that's a repeat customer. Demographic trends, and I'd be very curious to loop back to Peter somehow, some way with this one, but from what I can see, from what I can garner, studies show the strongest piece of rentals tend to be in this 40 to 75-year-old age group. Again, this segment values comfort, stability, and bikes that inspire confidence. And they're increasingly choosing something from that E category. I would say that just absolutely defines the recumbent market. 98% of the recumbent trike sales fall into this age group. Recumbents, it doesn't get much more comfortable than having a rolling lawn chair, a lawn chair on wheels, as we like to say. Stability, confidence inspiring, all boxes that recumbents check off. And then when it comes to the E component of it, all the major recumbent brands offer E models, and in many cases, all their models can be purchased either analog, acoustic, or electrified. The opportunity, I think, really is about meeting and exceeding the expectations. Again, the broader trend, comfort focused. Retailers who adopt the rental inventory to meet these needs, they definitely gain a competitive advantage. Rentals, Peter mentioned this, it'll come up again many times for me. Rentals are a try before you buy catalyst. Again, increasing that retail conversion. Here in Grand Rapids, we have a Pedigo dealer. Occasionally we have breakfast, talk shop and that sort of thing. His claim is that rentals likely drive 20 plus sales a year where that conversion is happening. I would think most IBDs would absolutely be glad with that number, having that rental business and then having that additional sale generated from it. Case for IBD rental programs, recumbent trike rentals, why the recumbent stand out, if you will. Again, that level of comfort for that age group, stability, safety, encouraging that hesitant or senior rider, and then suitable for riders with varying abilities. We definitely speak to the people that have mobility limitations or limited confidence levels for a various number of reasons. Second part of that really gives you that point of differentiation. I feel pretty strongly about that. Making yourself different, offering something that nobody else has, really sets you apart. Again, with that recumbent product, it'll really speak to those riders that are looking for maximum comfort and those looking for something unique, fun, different, regardless of age. Rolling into that little piece just for a second, I've had the opportunity to go out to Sea Otter and set up out there on a number of occasions, and it's always really interesting to me how I generally think of our product as being something for an older group, and yet when I get to that setting as Sea Otter, the number of younger kids, teens and such that gravitate to it just because it's different, it's always super encouraging. So I don't want to ever limit it to what my blinders limit it to. Expanding that out, I think, is really, really critical. And again, really speaking to that no rider left behind. The strategic advantages for the forward-thinking retailer, again, covered a lot about that. One of the things I want to point out is that what you get when you start to have the rental fleet, and especially with the recumbent piece of it, what it opens up for you with the rail to trail associations, the tourism bureaus, the resorts, the active aging communities, you tap into a different type of network. I really feel like when you have that recumbent component to your rental fleet. Here in Michigan, we have a wonderful magazine, Michigan Trail Magazine. It's quite thick, it's quite big. It literally has every trail in Michigan within this. The number of recumbent photos, ads, and such that are included in that magazine, it's incredible. So just really speaks to how open other communities are to the recumbent component and recumbent sales, even though generally speaking, at times the IBDs have kind of sometimes closed that out for themselves. Last one, conclusion. It's incremental. Can I say almost enough said? Everything else on here, this slide is really a rehash of what it is, but it really differentiates their business. It really is incremental, and I would encourage everybody to take a look at it. And that last photo really speaks to anything's possible with them. I think we've had Mark Cruz, CEO of Whiz Wheels, on here before, and every year, Mark, myself, and we always grab a couple other people to tag around with us, take several days, and we call it Trike and Trout, and we go camping and go trout fishing, all on our recumbent trikes. So anything's possible. Heather, back to you.
Excellent. Marshall, thank you. I love your very authentic presentation. And you hold the Guinness Book of World Record. amazing. Great presentation, really focused on the demographic trends, the opportunity with recumbent trikes, and just the golden opportunity in general that embracing rentals can do for us. We've had lots of great discussion in the webinar chat, and now I do want to open it up to either our panel members or our attendees who are with us, just for sharing more best tips on rentals. Maybe if you're doing rentals and you're having success, what is fueling that success? Maybe what we think as an industry rentals look like in the future. Maybe in taking some best cases on what we see as trends as far as rentals or even leasing progressing. But just staying with
Mm.
rentals for a minute. Anyone on the call have anything else that they'd want to share? Any of our experts when it comes to rentals? Rob, did I notice you on mute?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that for my experience, we've found that dealers that sort of lean into EMTB demo slash rental in markets where there is access to natural surface trails see a significant uptick in EMTB sales. And one of the things that I found as a best practice is to put a dollar value on a 24-hour period that allows a consumer to take one or more EMTBs for rides on their favorite trails and then apply that value back to the price of the bike within a certain time period. Retailers that have done that have sold a lot of EMTBs. I would say that most of the retailers that are having significant success selling EMTB do that aggressively. And the reason it's so exciting to me is EMTB seems to be one of the categories that, according to Circana, is not being cannibalized by direct consumer sales. So I would encourage anyone where there's access to try to lean into that. Talk to your suppliers about special deals on demo bikes and see if you can generate some rental value as well as plus sales using that technique.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. So for our attendees, Rob Kaplan is with Bulls Bikes USA. And Rob, I was going to follow up and ask you a question just for retailers who want to get started in rentals, if they should ask their suppliers for a special rental program. And in your best knowledge, you've been in the industry for a while with myself. Do most brands have rental programs and it's just for a retailer making that ask?
Yes, absolutely. And if they don't, ask anyway.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah. Peter Woolery from Bicycle Market Research.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to add a little support to what Rob mentioned. So I monitor the direct-to-consumer market for people for bikes as well. And we do see strong EMTB or electric mountain bike sales there, but they're not really what you as a traditional bicycle retailer would really consider EMTB. They're a lot more of that casual use, like fat tire, knobby, and what have you. So even in that side of things, we don't see a dramatic amount. There's certainly some successful brands that sell EMTBs direct to consumer, but it really is something where the rider wants to experience it at the retailer. And so we're seeing more shift in longer travel, full suspension mountain bikes to the same longer travel EMTBs. And it seems to be correlated with riders who have a certain amount of time or a certain amount of energy and they want to do 2 laps at their favorite trails. And so they're more engaged with riding. And from an economic standpoint, they're also consuming more of the value of that bike. So even though they're great quality bikes, they're going to need another newer bike sooner because they've been riding the heck out of it. So it's really good all around. And I think doing that demo program where you offer the credits back at Summit Bicycles, we had a lot of success with that, particularly for people looking at high-end bikes. They really wanted to, not necessarily increase the price of the bike even more with demos. So if we gave them a 30 to 90-day window where they could keep trying these bikes and then apply it within reason. There's you always have edge cases, but the vast majority of people were just really excited about that program, and they just felt much more confident when they finally put down the $5, $6, $10,000 to buy a super fancy bike.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter, for sharing that. I'm excited about the EMTV. I've rented one before. It's amazing, right? It's so much fun. So, Marshall, I saw your hand up. Did you want to chime in here as well?
Sure. Thank you. So yes, we offer a demo program and a rental program, and they do differentiate between them. We, I would say, at TerraTrike probably have oh, half a dozen to a dozen dealers to take advantage of that, depending. I would say a dozen, but it gets split between those two types of programs. And those that are renting that are IBDs, because we do have entities that rent our trikes that are what fall into that, what you would call IBD category. And they do offer the type of program that Peter mentioned, where um, that rental fee can be applied to the purchase of the trike, if you will. The question I have though out there is, and I wish I recalled the name of these two platforms, but I have a number of dealers, like at least a half a dozen dealers that participate on one of two platforms where it's all digital. You know, you log onto their website, you rent from their website, but it launches you onto another platform, and that's where the actual transaction takes place. I'm curious if either Rob or Peter or maybe one of the IBDs online uses one of those platforms and they'd speak to it.
I've heard of Bike Rental Manager and Booksy, but maybe some other people on the
Yeah.
call can give some feedback too. Um, Danielle, did I see you?
I
Hi.
unmuted. Just because I wanted to really chime in about we're a mountain bike shop and we do a lot of bike rentals and a lot more e-mountain bike rentals. Um and we kind of interchangeably call them rentals or demos. So we call them our demo bikes, but or our rental fleet. But I know some places do say like they've like, these are the demo bikes and these are the rental bikes. But it's been great for us. We're not to the point where we use a software that does like that has a system for the rentals and, on the days and stuff like that. Right now, we've been able to get by using like Google Calendar. That's how we keep track of what's going out. The only thing we run into is people can book them online. So if they book online, if they don't tell us like in the notes, we just have to call or them right away and say, "Hey, what day did you want it for?" And hopefully it's still of it, and usually it's worked out for us so far, but we will probably get to the point where it was too expensive. I've looked into it that it was too much for us for what we're doing right now, but we have about like 18 mountain bikes about in our fleet, and we're a transition demo center, like certified shop. um it's been great for us. We're in a tourist destination, so we're in Brown County, so we're like an hour south of Indianapolis, so we're in an Epic Ride Center. um and we make it easy. We also rent out tailgate pads, to hit like receivers. We rent helmets, but we also provide a shuttle service. So we try to make it as easy as we can for the customer. So, and I would say the people mostly, if they're coming in and, they're renting a car and they don't have, they're obviously renting a bike, then they'll usually take advantage of the shuttle service that we'll offer, if they don't have a way to safely transport the bike into the park. Of course, if they're doing e-bikes, when they're doing the e-mountain bikes, sometimes they ride in because we're just like a couple miles from the state park entrance. But I would say too, I was thinking about talk to your accountant about your rental bikes and your rental bike fleet if you want to do that, because they are going to be helpful with how, like if you are going to depreciate that or if you're not, and the advantages and disadvantages. One good thing too, that we do that has been really great for us is when you sell, because as you're renting the bikes, you tax them, they have sales tax, but when you sell them, they're a used bike, so that's tax free. And that's a big advantage for your customer. So that's a big part of our business is our rental business, but it's also whenever we sell our retired demo fleet because people get a really good deal on it because it's, a used bike and we've taken care of it, so they know it's since we're a transition demo like rider shop, they get the full warranty. We've taken care of it here with our awesome mechanics. And then they get it tax free. So they're saving that Indiana, we have 7% tax. So they get a really good deal on a really awesome bike that they probably rode because they are trying to, see if they like it. Um, but those were things I was thinking to share with people if you had questions about rental fleets and all of that. But yeah, but I'd talk to your insurance and your accountant about how, you want to set, because we did it one way and then we changed because it was like hurting us tax wise. And I can't remember. I'm not an accountant. That is not my area, but I would talk to, your accountant about that. But yeah, but again, for us, we haven't gone into a software, but I know like I don't know if like Heather is the hub in Pisca. Are they a member?
Yeah, they're actually part of our P2 program and they do many rentals as well.
Yeah. It seems like they use a software
Yeah,
because you can book, and they have what bikes available. So I think they might be able to share what they use and
we did have
that's
Peter Woolery did put into the chat for everyone too many options that people can look at as well. So that's there, and he has a cute dog on his lap. Peter, I'm coming over. I'm taking your dog out for a walk. We're becoming friends. Danielle, thank you. I'm so glad you chimed in because I was like, I don't know if you saw my eyes looking at you because I know you do so much bike rental business. I was like, Danielle has to jump in here. Great suggestion on reaching out to your accountant and making sure that we're classifying and taking the depreciation on these bikes and putting them through appropriately. Rob, I see your hand up. I know you wanted to jump back in too.
So I was just going to say that in my ongoing mantra of gross margin return on investment, for a lot of dealers, stocking EMTB is a very daunting financial undertaking because they're costly. And if you're just starting to develop that market, it's a lot of money to invest when you're not sure that it's going to generate the kind of return on investment that you're looking for. So for some stores, jumping into the market with a very small selection of bikes for sale and a larger demo or rental fleet and working off of your supplier's inventory can be a cost-effective way to engage in the category without tying up capital prematurely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion, Robin. It makes me think we do have in our P2 program the New Wheel out in San Francisco area, multiple locations. They really have built their business around doing that rental demo as part of the first buying process. And then off of that rental or demo, they then sell a bicycle appropriate to that customer. And what they have really told us through the P2 program participation is they have more people coming and trying bikes to experience them. So they're really opening their doors to a very diverse community, and it's really helped their business. And they're not making that huge financial investment. They're using, working with their suppliers, let's say hand in hand, their partners, to help them with stock allocation. So great thing there to think about, Rob. Um, Rentals translating to sales. I wrote that down and I just want to touch on that a little bit. So new customers come in, they rent, they find the love of an e-mountain bike. They weren't even thinking about an e-mountain, but now they've rented it. And now are we finding that a certain percentage of renters will translate into a future sale, or any pro tips on how to facilitate that? Danielle, thanks for putting your hand up.
I was gonna say I wouldn't know any hard data right now on it, but I can look at that. But we do if you rent a bike um and you end up buying a new bike, we take off the rental fee.
Okay.
And that people, I mean, any type of discount that you can do, and we're like, because, we're just like, we want you to be able to ride it. I mean, it's a lot of money to invest. And so we want you to be able to ride it and see what you like and how it performs on the trail. And So yeah, I think that's, that's an easy thing you can do. And I mean, we found that you think like, oh, you're losing whatever, but it's like you're gaining so much by giving that discount, offering that to your customer, and yeah, people take advantage of it. And again, I don't know our exact numbers on what the percentage is on how many sales we get exactly, but um,
It probably happens. It's definitely
it
happening.
happens. Yeah.
Excellent. Um,
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. There was a question that came in the chat as well, just thinking about the populations. This one references Indy that have a large bike share program. So we love to see a bike share program. I've taken them in Chicago, New York City myself. Excellent option to get around urban areas or metro areas. But how does that compete with a retailer who might be wanting to have a rental fleet? Any considerations or thoughts there from our panel members on that? I mean, my first gut instinct is like the specialty bicycle retailer is going to have a different selection, much different selection. I don't know if anyone here has used a bike share bike, but it's drastically different than some of the bikes that we're going to sell in our stores. So I think there always will be a customer for both. But yeah, Peter, thanks for jumping in. I'm just kind of sharing my own ideas
No
here.
worries. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It really comes down to your specific area, right? When we talk about San Francisco and the new wheel, well, bike share bikes are everywhere in San Francisco, and ridership is up a lot on those types of bikes. And I would almost say that's more of a or convenience or almost extreme casual use of bicycles, which is great. It's still more people riding bicycles, but it's going to be very different than the new wheel renting out one of their high performance electric bikes. It's also going to be different than say Blazing Saddles, which is really focused in the high touristy areas where they might be renting for a longer period of time. So not only do you have a difference in terms of the bikes that are being rented, but also the overall window that it's rented for. A bike share bike really is, I mean, they're charging you per the minute, so it's down to that specific use, that specific ride. Whereas if you're in an area where someone might come around for a longer period of time to explore the area, they're probably going to be more inclined for something that they can rent for the whole day and not be bound and thinking about, oh, that minute just cost me a little more and a little more. So it really comes down to your local environment and find the niche that fits with both your business model and the available consumer demand that might be out there.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, we did a Women in the Bicycle Industry event in Chicago, and we used bike share bikes. And we made an error, and somehow our daily rental was like $90 or something. It was like crazy. We didn't do it right. But yeah, it can be very costly, and there's different bikes out there. And I actually think that these areas that have these bike share programs, more people on bikes, better opportunity for infrastructure, and more people seeing the bicycle as an option, which can lead to future bike sales. So I actually see it as a benefit. More people on bikes is always a good day. Great question that came into the Q&A, and it looks like Rob Kaplan is being a wonderful person and responding back. But just some questions I want to just throw out, and we'll put it out to the group as well. If we're renting e-bikes, are we giving the rider a charger? And is there any negative issues we've experienced with renting e-bikes? So just general rental of e-bike questions. Maybe Danielle, as a retailer, could chime in here.
We usually only give them the charger if they're renting for multiple days. Unless they're like, no, they're gonna like go hard and they're gonna charge it at lunch. So if they are just doing, one day we won't give it to them unless they specifically ask. But yeah, on the multi-day, they definitely get to keep that, because they get it, they'll have it overnight. Um, yeah, because we have some mid-power e-mountain bikes and then some full power. So sometimes the mid-power and, some of the bigger people, I'm like, yeah, if you're getting turbo the whole time, it's gonna go down. So if you want to ride all day, you'll want to do a boost in at lunch. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I just had a question that came up just thinking about life cycle of a bike in model years. Maybe Rob from a manufacturer viewpoint, who also works very closely with retailers, and I know that you always have retailers' best interest of heart at heart and growing ridership. How often should we be bringing new bikes into the fleet? Like, do we want to show the latest technology, or what's the best practice there?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, having the newest, most technologically advanced product in your demo fleet certainly helps you sell that higher end bike. Um, but I would say that with the market the way it is today, cost effective wise, to build out a fleet, you're probably best going with, a legacy product or a supplier that has some excess inventory because that's where the deals can be had. I would say the same thing in terms of sales. Some consumers want the newest, greatest, latest motor, but a lot of consumers, especially I would say more recreational riders don't really care about that. So it really depends on what market you're trying to get to and what you're trying to do with your allocated resources. There's always going to be some new technology, and if you're always chasing that new technology with your fleet, that can get really expensive pretty quickly. So I would caution trying to have, the newest engine on an EMTB at all times on the entire fleet. Having a couple, probably not a bad idea, but it needs to be scaled to the size of your fleet as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I think about like the new wheel, they'll show a Bosch motor and a Shimano motor, so they'll have a fleet
Yep.
with both so people can feel the difference, and
Yep.
that's helping with future sales too. Yeah. Marshall, I'm sorry. I just saw your hand up.
No, it's all good. So yeah, with our rental program, typically our stores sell off that rental fleet annually. And
Okay.
then they're signing a new contract and they're buying a new fleet every single year. Um, and I know that, you've got mountain bikes now that $15,000 and so on. And our product doesn't reach that kind of price range. So important to point that out. But I would still say the IBDs that are involved in the rental business, I would say, like, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Bike World in Des Moines, Iowa, a very normal but large retailer in the Midwest. Um, you know, they're selling off their fleet, as I understand it, annually, and that's across the board, whether it be Cannondale, Giant Truck, or whatever. So whatever that might be worth.
Thank you, Marshall. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot there. It's probably also, retailer specific, what's best for their cash flow as well. Yeah, Danielle, I see you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, having a fleet, we have a certain amount of like rents that we want to get out of it. And then and it usually is around a year anyway. Um I know too with, you have to talk to your manufacturers of, like because they want us to have what's coming out, you know, every year. So but for us, it's worked out that, usually it is. We also have some e-commuter bikes that we rent out to for, people around town or people ride them on the road in like our state park. Um, but our e-mountain bikes, especially, they just, they're just going to wear out quicker because they're ridden more, the tires, the chain, like, so, and we keep track of all the things we like put into that. But, yeah, they really, you want to look at like what you're charging, how many rents you want to get out of it to make it worth it, because then at the end, you want to say, okay, if we sell it for this much, if you want to make however much you want to make on it, um, and again, for us, it's around that year mark anyway that we have them generally. So but yeah, and I don't know what the magic number is, exactly, but I know yeah, we generally try to keep them for that long. And then your like the our manufacturers, like they have, like you have to have your bikes this long, but we don't want you to have them over this amount, you know? So they're like, you can't sell your rental fleet until this date. When you get them, you know, like you can't sell them within 6 months or 9 months, but then they want you to sell them by 18 months, you know? So they want you to have them for a certain time. You know, sometimes, I mean, you talk to your rep and like, but yeah, there's usually, you know, a demo program, and yeah, that we're part of anyway. And now that we're part of this demo center with transition, but we have rental bikes with Kona too. We're a Kona dealer as well. So and we do and have rented some gravel bikes before. And yeah, we don't rent those quite as much. But yeah, the mountain bikes, they're, you know, they're just getting more wear and tear. So yeah, they get ridden hard sometimes. So um yeah, but
I have two more questions just for the panel members. We'll start with one. Let's say because I think we have some retailers on the call based on the chats and the questions that maybe are considering rentals. So let's say we are just going to start up a rental business at our shop. How are we best communicating that? Or even if we're offering rentals already, how are we best communicating that we're the place to come for rentals? So either to retailers or to our panel members who are working with retailers who have seen retailers have success. Any thoughts there for communicating to our community that we're the place to come for rentals? Oh, Larry Black. Hi, Larry. You're muted, Larry. So just unmute for me and then.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to cut out. The phone got too hot. I'm down in Florida for a few days, and the phone got warm, so it cut out. It's very good topic. Marshall's plan was excellent, and in fact, I'm holding the fort down for one of my friend shops here who is got some rentals out right now. He was able to get a hold of some of these Dutch bikes that were ex-rental docked bikes, and they're built very well. As I mentioned in my comments chat, we don't have a special fleet, and we do like selling our rental bikes. We don't wait till the end of the year. If something's been rented a few times and somebody wants to buy it, I can always get more bikes. But if a customer's there, they want that bike, we'll just sell it to them. And as I mentioned, all the rental fee goes towards the bike. And if they want to get a different bike within 60 days or a reasonable period, we'll apply half the rental towards that other bike. And this keeps bikes coming and going. So, very good topic. Glad you did it.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah. So I've seen some retailers communicate rentals via their website, via their social platforms, partnering up with a local chamber or tourism department. Those are all great ways to communicate that you're the place to come for rentals. I've seen retailers even go as far and do a little best places to ride schematic, put like some suggested loops together and give that to the tourism department along with their information of rentals. So every community does have a tourism department, even if you're Schenectady, New York. So reach out. There is a local advocacy organization working for bringing people into your region. Marshall, I see your hand up.
Yeah, you've already nailed so many of those things when you just went through that list. So the only other one I have written down here is, for me, the obvious one. Don't forget Google AdWords. You know, we have dealers that are spending some money with that so that they end up at that top of the list. When you go into town and you type in rentals, you know, and bikes, you kind of want to be at the top of the list. So you've nailed all the other ones.
Sorry, Marshall. I should have let you talk first. We have a comment in chat or into the Q&A. I just want to put this out there. Offering rentals could raise your insurance costs. There is some liability that comes with it. Insurance is unfortunately going up across the nation. It's something we're battling. So please do reach out to your insurance company. I don't think we can get into a best practices with insurance right now because none of us are insurance experts, but I would just say please reach out and know that there could be additional costs incurred because you're renting. I did ask Rob Kaplan of Bulls Bikes USA to place his email into the chat in case there is anyone on the call thinking about rentals. I know Rob does have, and Bulls has a great program there. So I wanted you to have that research or resource. And then one other thing before we wrap up today, I actually want to ask Jay Townley. I'm going to put him on the spot a little bit. I know he loves me when I do this. Jay, how important are rentals for the future of the American bicycle business? I know that you're watching this, you're gravely concerned right now just because of the state of the industry we're in. times we've never experienced before. So this conversation, just in your viewpoint, growing ridership, how important are rentals to our future of our industry?
Extremely. I think it's both rentals, and I think Rob has seen this over the years too. Rentals will go up and down, as Peter said, depending on what the markets are. They're on the ascend at this point, but I think it's both rentals and thinking about what the Europeans have been doing very successfully and are talking to us about bringing to the United States, is going beyond rentals and starting leasing programs. Anything to get people on a bike. I like Marshall's approach to it, and I ride a recumbent. I've been a recumbent advocate for decades, as many of you know. But it's also being able to rent and provide leased product into the niches, which includes what we're now seeing with families, particularly young families, and so-called cargo bikes. And that goes to whether those are available on a lease basis as well. So I think the whole category of rental, leasing, making a product available to a consumer, understanding that our consumers have all changed and will continue to change as demographics. It's the nature of the population of a large country changing and evolving, are going to look for different attributes. And you got more people today at the lower income levels that are going to look for that ability to say, oh, you mean I can buy this monthly? I can pay for this monthly. I'll own it at the end, and I'll have that ability to deal with either taxes or what this will do for me in a monetary sense. So a long way around, Heather, of saying I think rentals and more importantly, the concepts of leasing are more important than they've ever been for the specialty bike retail channel to look at and to incorporate into their business planning.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, a couple other comments here, Marshall. Marshall, you're getting so good at the unmuting. He's got it.
Hey, since you had Jay on, and this kind of deviates a little bit from this, but I'm gonna loop this one in here because it's been a talking point in our office space, if you will. But the number of brands out there that are now offering the ability to purchase, I'll use Canyon as an example. I think they're the ones that came to mind first. Through an HSA, your health savings account, and those sorts of things, now opening up that ability, and you're literally buying it over time through that as well.
Excellent.
Which is interesting, just how many different paths there are to this, way to purchase a bike. So, not a rental thing. Thanks.
Thanks, Marshall. Yeah, we are looking into the HSA and providing some resource to our members around that. So, Rob Kaplan.
Yeah, just to jump on to what Jay and Marshall were talking about, buy now, pay later. It's a little bit of a slippery slope, and there's been some pushback on that concept of late. But for responsible consumers, the ability to buy a bike and pay low monthly fees without paying huge interest, and there are some ways to do that from a retail perspective as well as from a brand perspective. I would encourage people, as you said, Jay, the demographics are switching, and the younger generation, I'll say, is increasingly looking at monthly payment budgets instead of bulk purchase budgets, and the ability to spread that cost at low or no interest over a period of time could enable somebody to get into a nicer bike purchased through an EIBD or an IBD instead of going a direct consumer route.
Excellent. What a great topic for our growing ridership and increasing retailer foot traffic panel. This was very insightful. In 60 minutes, it's a lot to digest. We did a great job just looking at bike rental legality, who's renting, how rentals do grow ridership. We looked at recumbent trikes, the golden opportunity, and then this general discussion. You might have a lot of questions that you weren't maybe comfortable asking today, or questions might come to you later. We're not sending you out on your own. You can always reach out, heather@nbda.com. I'm happy to help you and give you any information I can to help steer you in the right way if you're a retailer thinking about getting into rentals. If you're a brand thinking about offering rentals, reach out too. We can connect you with other suppliers that we know are doing it great. So there's always resource. Just please reach out. We appreciate our panel members for their expertise, for all of our attendees, your great questions. Thank you for being so engaged. I know it's the holiday season. There's a lot of things pulling us in many directions. So we do appreciate your time today. Our next event is May 19th, 2026. So we won't see you for a bit, but we do have other events going on. We have our e-bike safety panel. We'll be meeting as our retailer and supplier best practices panel in the early Q1 of 2026. So look for those panels. And then our next growing ridership is May 19th, 2026. And Megan just threw the link in the chat for that. So appreciate everyone. If we don't see you before the year out, Happy New Year. Thanks for engaging with the NBDA, and we hope to see you into 2026. Thank you all.